Thank you all coming tonight. As Todd said, I'm from across the pond. And as my wife says, that when you speak, John, you should speak a little bit more slower, because Americans, although we speak English, you speak American English, I speak English. It is a different language. So forgive me tonight if I go a little bit too fast. You know, standing up here talking to you, I'd sooner be here speaking about Jesus. I don't like to speak about myself, the testimony of my life. And over this last week, when I recalled my life from 40 years ago, some of it has been quite emotional, because I'd forgot all about it, but this brings it up. But Jesus calls us to speak about where we've been and where we are now. Because if by what I'm going to tell you tonight exposes Christ to you, then it's job done. It's great, because that's what it's all about. And tonight is all about Jesus and bringing glory to his name. So it's not about me, it's about Jesus. I just wanted you to understand that. So everybody's got a story, I suppose. Everybody's got a testimony in them. And so I'm no different from anybody else. But anyways, here's my testimony. I was born in London, in England, in 1955. I'm an old boy. But and I come from a very poor background, very poor family we was raised in. My dad was a womanizer, he was a gambler, and he was a professional burglar. And he was never about for us. We lived in I don't know whether you have councils or authorities, local authorities in America here. And we lived in quite a rundown area in London. Well, it weren't quite a rundown area, it was a rundown area. The house was a beat-up old house, and the name of it, I even remember the name, it was 10 Chamberlain Road. They've knocked it all down now. And the house, I'll give you I want to give you just an insight of where I come from, and I'll get into my testimony of where I am now in Christ. The house didn't have a bathroom. We had to have a bath, or a bath. Sorry. We had to have in London we spell it B-A-R-F. Right. We had to have a bath in a tin bath beside the fire. Our toilet was a building out in the garden, no heating, nothing. It was just a very, very basic house. Our clothes and our shoes were, most of them come from an organisation in England, and I believe it still exists in England today, and it was called the WRVS. It's called the Women's Royal Voluntary Service. We got our shoes, we got a lot of our clothes from that. So in the 50s and the early 60s, you know, some of them, about that time, you know, people were still recovering from the Second World War. So there was a lot of poverty in that part of London anyway. And because we got these shoes and clothes, we used to get a lot of ridicule off the other kids. So we used to fight them. You know what I mean? We was brought up to fight with each other, to fight with other kids, and to thieve as well. We thieved. Some of the things we'd done was we stole my mother's pram, for instance, for a newborn daughter that was going to be born. Not newborn, she was going to be born. And we went down to this place called the Old Houses, what all us kids called the Old Houses. Now, the Old Houses was where we used to live, but by this time, the authority had given us another house in the same area, but this had a bathroom, so that was good. Still unheated, though. So we all used to meet up down the Old Houses. We was about 6 or 7. And we used to cut all the lead out and load it in the pram and just try to sell it at 6 or 7 to make some money. We used to go down there. We used to try to catch rats there, and we used to get bitten by the rats, and I suppose God was watching over me then. And stuff like that. Anyway, we filled this pram up and we couldn't push it along the road, and the police caught us and took us back to our mum. Now, in London at that particular time, if you had the police come to your door, everybody gossiped about it. It was a big no-no to have the police come to your door. And everybody would say, oh, that's the Barrow boys again. The Barrow boys again. They're in trouble with the police again. Look at them. But anyway, after a while, you know, because my dad wasn't around, my mum found it very difficult to cope. And she tried to commit suicide. And we come home and we saw her on the floor one time. And we just, like kids, we got on her and we thought she was a racehorse, and we thought we was in a horse race. Well, when she didn't wake up, we went and got the neighbour, and they phoned an ambulance and took her to hospital. And, well, she survived. But what happened after she come home, we just went totally off the rails. We was really, really wild kids. We were so bad, we was put in children's homes, in boys' homes. And when you're put in them places, the only way you survive is through violence and intimidation. So from my dad being a thief and the area that we come from, we was put into these homes. We went in there, and we was violent. We'd go in there, and the head bully in the children's homes was a kid called the daddy, if you like. And he'd come in there and he'd try to intimidate you. Well, I was usually sent away with my brother Mick. And this guy tried to intimidate us. Well, we was having none of it. And we just beat him up. And now we become the daddy, if you like, in other people's eyes, which is not a good thing, but at that particular time, that's where we was coming from. And I'm just trying to give you an insight to where I was and where I am. You know, we progressed from that to, in later life, to lots of other bad things. Well, anyway, what my mum used to do as kids, because we was problem kids, to tame us, she used to say and threaten us with, look, if you don't behave, I'm going to take pills again. But it didn't used to deter us. Or she used to threaten us with a knife and, like, you effing kids, if you don't stop misbehaving, I'm going to run you through with this. Hate filled in her eyes. You know, she's a woman at her wit's end. After saying that, she was our rock, if you like, because Dad wasn't around. She was our total, sounds ironic, but she was a strong woman in her own right. She had to be to look after the 6 of us. There were 6 of us, me being the oldest. She lost the first one in childbirth. Well, anyway, I remember when this guy used to come and take us to the children's homes. His name was Mr. Houghton. And he was quite officious, quite a posh guy. And when he used to pick us up, he used to say, come on, Jonathan, come on, Michael. And me and Mick, we hated that. We hated our full names being used. So when he used to say this, we just used to swear at him. We used to totally abuse him. We used to hit him. He must have thought we was just the devil's own, you know. So he took us to the home, and off we went, and we caused mayhem again. And I want to stress at this point that we never come from a Christian background, not at all. My mum had a very loose Catholic faith, whereas she tried to get us to go to church one time. We had a race across the pews and stole the holy water. And the priest chucked us out. He wouldn't let us back in anymore. We was just totally out of control. So that is where, you know, a bit of a background, children's homes, stealing, getting into a lot of trouble. So when I got to the stage where I could go to work, I was determined I wasn't going to live in poverty. I was going to earn some money. And that's what I did. I focused, I put the blinkers on, and I earned a lot of money. I gauged life by the amount of money you earned, by the house that you lived in, by the car you drove, and by the holidays you took. All I was concerned with was the pound. I wanted to make a pound. That's what I did. I got a lovely daughter now, and you know, when I got her, I decided that I wasn't going to let her go through the poverty that we went through. I wasn't going to spoil her, but I wanted her to have a better start in life. So, in 1989, I cheated on my wife with another woman because I thought the grass was greener, but the grass isn't greener. I ended